YouTube. USFL draft just happened this past week, and as always, I'm trying to follow a lot of this stuff. I love the AAF, I love the XFL, so now we're getting into it with the USFL. As you can see, the draft, like I said, the draft happened earlier this week, and I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown of all the teams, the pros, the cons, what my surprises are, and as always with all of this stuff, this is my opinions on this. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the info that happened with the draft. Okay, so the first thing is this here. Boom. Okay, so as you can see right below me, the draft had a breakdown. Right, so the first round was nothing but quarterbacks. Rounds 2 through 4 with DNs, 5 through 7 OTs, 8 through 11 corners. Then we go back to round 12 with the quarterbacks again. That was day 1. Then it's kicking off day 2. They went 13 through 17 wide receiver, safety, center, inside linebacker, guard, D-tackle, running back, fullback, OLB, kicker, punter, tight end, halfback, and then long snapper. It allows each team to kind of get their fully do their team positionally, and they don't have to worry about going all over the place. They can just focus on each one. If the teams let the clock run out, then they can still pick it, but the other team can pick it too. It didn't happen throughout the whole thing. Trades between teams completely off the board. There were no trades. No trades happened to the entire thing, so that was kind of cool. This was the one that was interesting, was teams may elect to pass during any round in exchange for a compensation pick that may be used at the conclusion of a different position round. So we had that happen a little bit. There's some teams that didn't draft a kicker, or they didn't draft a punter. Instead, they drafted like an extra safety, or they drafted an extra offensive tackle. So as you look at some of the rosters here that we have in a minute, you'll see not all of them are equal. Each team is a little bit different because each team picked up on different things. If more than one team utilizes a compensation pick in any given round, the draft order within that position round will determine the order for the compensation and selections. So as it went through, we got some switches. Teams started drafting, or the snake order started changing at different moments. So each team really got a good balance of picking early, picking late, picking in the middle, which was nice to see. Overall, I thought the draft was great. The only thing that I wish they would have done is put it live, right? Even if it was just like a Zoom call, like each team on a Zoom call on one channel, on their website, that sort of thing. It's the only thing I wish. Inaugural season, can't complain too much. We're getting spring summer football. Can't complain too much. And the final thing here, this is the extra part that I just want to add on to this because this will change some stuff, is the USFL will also conduct a 10-round supplemental draft on March 10th to select 80 more players. So that's going to just round out each team with 10 more players. So right now, I think each team, I'm looking at this, each team has 35 players. So adding those 10 players, we're going to bring it up to 45. So that's why I think some people missed on kickers, punters, long snappers, was because they knew that they could get them in the supplementary draft on March 10th. However, though, I also feel like there's just going to be some extra players that are now they're seeing this and going, okay, let's give this a shot, and we'll be going from there. So, I think that this will be an interesting season, but enough talking about that. Let's take a look at the teams, and we're going to start off with the North. Starting off in the North, to start off with the Michigan Panthers. This is my team that I'll be following during this first season. The positives for me looking at this team was they arguably took, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in Stevie Scott III. He played very well in college, and I think that he will be a good primary back in this offense. Also, I think that, in my opinion, they have the best head coach, too. Jeff Fisher being the head coach brings a true NFL high-level, not talent, but mind to the game, right? No matter what, we're gonna go even. So can't complain about that. But overall, though, I think that he's the best head coach in the entire league, by far. Those are kind of my main two positives. The cons, the O-line looks a little bit iffy to me. It will be interesting to see how it plays. There's some names there that I know. There's some names there that I don't. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. My other major con is the quarterback room. They took Shea Patterson at number 1. I thought that they would take Jordan Ta'amu after I found out that he was actually in the draft. I thought they would have taken Ta'amu, but instead they took Patterson. Michigan Wolverine, Michigan Panthers, so I guessed that. But then taking Paxton Lynch in the last round for quarterbacks, I think was a steal because it gives you a quarterback that is a veteran in the NFL. However, though, it's not a good veteran. It's a bad veteran in the NFL. So that's what I'm saying. I think that their quarterback room is a con more than anything, just because I'm not sure how Shea and Paxton will play out fully, right? My surprise of this entire thing is two. I got two surprises. It's the wide receiver room and it's the safety room. The wide receiver room with Quincy Aobadejo, or Adebayo. I just called him Aobadejo on my on Madden. So, but Quincy Adebayo and Lance Lenore, I think, a solid two of the better wide receivers in this entire draft and in this entire league right now. And then my safeties with Kyrian Williams and Orion Stewart. Orion Stewart's a personal favorite of mine, but he has pro experience. He has AAF, XFL experience. Kyrian Williams played at a high level at Nebraska. So I think I think those are the two surprise positions looking forward for the Michigan Panthers. Overall, though, I see the Michigan Panthers being a very balanced and a very solid team. It'll be interesting to see how each team looks more and more once we start seeing them actually on the field and playing and doing stuff. But just from the sheet, I like what I see here. So, going from the team that I said was one of the better teams to one of the teams that I think is going to be one of the worst teams is the New Jersey Generals. Pros here, they have arguably the best backfield with Mike Weber and Trey Williams, which is interesting. They got two very solid backs. One is a very solid college back, and one of them was played in the NFL for years and played around the league. Defensively, there is a lot of experience here defensively, which is nice to see. Chris Orr being the solo inside linebacker. He was a stud, and then in college, and he should be a stud in the USFL. I'm excited to see how that plays out. For me, though, the major cons, though, not a whole lot going on here. Major cons, though, Ben Holmes and DeAndre Johnson, I'm not 100% sure on for quarterbacks, right? With anything with this league, especially the quarterbacks are going to be the main focal point for the first beginning bit because it's the main people that we know, right? I'm not sold on either one of them. It's very interesting now seeing how everything played out and all the players that were available. Who was available in this? Because there were some names that I was expecting and I didn't see, and then there were some names that I saw that I wasn't expecting. Ben Holmes being one of them. My other my other con here is Mike Riley, the head coach. Not a fan of Mike Riley, not a fan of the way that he coaches, not a fan of the way that he does stuff. I think that this is one of the worst coaching decisions. Not the worst, but one of them out of the entire league. It'll be interesting, though. They have a lot going on here. And my surprise player of the entire thing. Well, my two surprise things. First surprise thing is that both Trey Williams and Devontae Bosbury, the corner, played for Mike Riley when he was coaching at the San Antonio Commanders. So that'll be interesting to see how they continue over. It's also nice seeing a head coach bring back players that he's had before. It's nice seeing that. But my main surprise player is Nicholas Truesdale, the tight end. He was the main tight end for the Salt Lake City Stallions back when the AAF was running, and he was one of the best tight ends in the league with an 89% catch percentage, only missing 3 catches. So I think that he could be a solid surprise player for this league. Overall, the Generals, I'm not seeing it. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Mike Riley, so that doesn't help much. But overall, though, it's just that their roster doesn't seem to be at the same level as a lot of the other teams. But we'll see it coming down the line. They don't really feel like it's there. Moving on to the Philadelphia Stars is the next team in the North. The Stars are an interesting one. Their DB room and their D-line I think are some of the better ones in the league. The DB room is a very experienced. There's a lot of NFL experience. There's a lot of just playing at a higher level than college experience there between Stribble, Lewis, Sylvie, Taco, and Cody Brown. Interesting to see. It will be like just seeing the defensive being the main part of it. Josh Banderas was a good linebacker for Nebraska, so it'll be interesting to see how that fully plays out. But that right there, I think, is the big positive here with the Philadelphia Stars is their defense. I think their defense is just a solid base. And also, I like Bart Andrus as the coach. I think that he's a solid coach. Looking to the cons, I'm going straight to the QB room with Brian Scott and Case Cookus. Like I said, I almost honestly would rather take someone like a Paxton Lynch, or there's a couple other names that you'll see here coming down the line on some of these other teams as the secondary guy that I would have taken over some of these. So it'll be interesting to see what they saw that I didn't see personally. I find it funny that the Philadelphia Stars picked up Brendan Eagles, with his last name being Eagles, Philadelphia. Not really a con, just something funny. But that's my big one there. And my surprises for this team, it's going to be two. We got two this time. It's the only tight end on the roster, Bug Howard. Great player at UNC. I want to see if he can continue that now, right, coming back into this league. And then DeAndre Overton from Clemson. Clemson wide receivers, either a hit or miss. And apparently Overton was one of the misses because he isn't in the NFL right now. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays. But I think that he could be a solid player for this team. Overall, though, it is interesting to see Freedom, Banderas. Their defense looks solid. I will say that. I think the Philadelphia Stars defense will be fun to watch. There's a lot of names there. There's a lot of talent there. That's my big takeaway from the Stars is that defense. The defense for me is solid. The offense, I have no fucking clue what's going on there. Matt Colburn II is an interesting player, but like I said, the quarterback room is going to surprise some people because nobody knows who the fuck they are. So that will be interesting. I'm excited. Yet again, right now in the North, I'm still, it's the Panthers, Stars, then the Generals right now. Getting to the final team in the North, we have the Pittsburgh Maulers. Already, I'm going to say this right now. This is, in my opinion, this is the best offensive line in the USFL. Chidi Okokie, Isaiah Battle, Vandal Alexander, John Ditson. I'm probably pronouncing half of those wrong, but those four right there, along with Nicholas Falah, that's one of the most solid O-lines I think we will see in the USFL. And it makes, as an ex-offensive lineman in college, I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Kirby Wilson being the head coach is the other positive for me. Is the other pro. He's a guy that's been he's been in the league for years. He's never had a head coaching shot. He's been a running backs coach for a lot of years, and now he's getting that shot. So I'm really excited to see how that fully plays out. And of course, it's funny saying that because you'll see in a minute here the cons are kind of the wide receivers. We got a lot of them. We got a lot. They got five wide receivers and one tight end, and all of them are question marks to me. They're interesting players. They did decent in college, or they've bounced around the league. It will be interesting to see how they fully, I want to say manifest, but that's the wrong way of wording it. It'll be funny. It'll be interesting to see how they play in the USFL. And then the other big one, this is my big con, is you're the Pittsburgh Maulers and your colors are purple and orange. I just find it funny because it's the Ravens colors, it's the Orioles colors, but it's the Pittsburgh team. I understand that it's the old Pittsburgh Maulers and they were purple, and I want to say they're purple and red, not orange. They just changed it out, but still. That's kind of my main negative, just as a funny ha-ha hee-hee. That's my big one with it. Defensively, they look solid. A lot of players, a lot of names. But my surprises for this are all offensive. It's the running back group and Lailetta. Lailetta was a guy coming out of Richmond, if I remember correctly. Who had a little bit of a name behind him when he was going to the Giants. So it'll be interesting to see now behind a solid offensive line what he can do, especially with this backfield where Devion Smith led the XFL in rushing, and Garrett Groshek being a Wisconsin back. We all know how Wisconsin backs are. So I'm expecting this team to be downhill in your face, just running right at you. I think this is going to be the most violent team to watch offensively, and I cannot wait. I'm really excited to see how the Maulers play. Maulers are my number 2 team in the North, behind the Panthers. Panthers, Maulers, Stars, and Generals. So that's the North. Now let's take a look at the South and see what's going on down there. Starting off in the South, we got the Birmingham Stallions. Birmingham Stallions. The O and D line for this team is solid across the board. I love the O and D line. I love the names. I love the players. I think that this is arguably the strength of this team is their O and D line. It's not to the same level as the Maulers line, but this is a very solid, very strong O-line. Personally as well, just me personally, I love Tony Brooks James, I love Victor Bowden Jr., and I love Scooby Wright. I loved all those guys in college. So it's cool seeing some of these guys that I loved in college in this league. So I'm really excited to see them. I think the biggest one out of all of them will be Scooby Wright. I think Scooby Wright leading this defense will be great to see, and hopefully give him another shot at getting to the NFL. And then my con here, my con is Alex McGaw. Okay, shocking. My con is another quarterback, along with a lot of these other ones. But this is another one of those ones. And like I said earlier, I have some other stuff. It's just I don't think he's going to be the starter for long. Let me put it like that. He was drafted in the first round. I don't think he's going to be the starter for long. And this is my whole reasoning why. Skip Holtz is the head coach. Skip Holtz was the head coach of Louisiana Tech, LA Tech. One of LA Tech's most recent and better quarterbacks was Lamar Davis Smith, right? Lamar Davis Smith played for Holtz during a stretch when LA Tech was very dominant, right? They were 34-19 that was their record during the years that Jamar Davis Smith was there, and he played. He had a 59.2% passer rating. He had almost 10,000 yards passing and 51 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Is hella good for a small-time college D1 team, right? So I think that is my biggest surprise, is going to be Jamar Davis Smith taking over the starting role from Alex McGaw very, very quickly. And he's going to, I can see him taking full advantage of some of these weapons here that some people may not have heard of before. But if you start looking into them, you're going to see that there's a little bit of sneakiness there that some people may not have known about, right? I just think that overall, this is going to be an interesting team. The Birmingham Stallions are going to be an interesting team to watch. Let's just put it like that. The Houston Gamblers are the number 2 team in the South right now. Looking at the roster, for me, pros after this draft, there's a lot of defensive talent here. You got Chris Odom. You have Donald Payne, Azim Victor, Ben Brown. I'm not even going to try to say his first name. Howard Wilson. You have a lot of solid defensive experience here. And then offensively, JoJo Ward, in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in this entire league. He's a Hawaii receiver. Hawaii's always been known to have receivers that can put up ungodly numbers and most of the time see coverages that everyone has seen, that no one has seen. So I think that JoJo Ward is going to be huge for this team. Looking forward. My question marks really for this team, or my cons, the QB room, and this is another one that we'll get to. Clayton Thorson, Benji Bahar. I'm not a fan of Thorson. Like I said, these are, my opinions sort of thing. So not a fan of Thorson though. Benji Bahar I really like. So as a room though, I just think it's a very messy room. And defensively, or not defensively, offensively as a whole, it's a very interesting. Don't really see kind of it's tough to see what teams are going to do when you look at it on paper, but there's some players that I feel like names that I know in my head that I didn't see in this that I feel like would be better than some of these players. But that's just me. I just offensively very intrigued by this team. Defensively, I think this team is going to be very good. My surprises for this are going to be Benji Bahar taking over the starting job from Clayton Thorson. I think Kenji Bahar will take the starting spot at some point. Not sure when, but at some point he will be the starting quarterback. And also, I'm going to put this out there right now. I think Donald Payne will be the best defensive player in the entire league, potentially even being the defensive MVP for the entire season. That's my solid, just kind of a wild out there thing. He played incredibly for the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple years back. So I think that he's going to be playing at a high level, trying to get back to the league, trying to get back to the NFL. And I think that he's going to rip it up in Houston and be the guy, be the gambler, right? So coming on to the most bright-colored team of the entire league, we got the New Orleans Breakers. This team is the pro for this team is that all around there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of talent here, a lot of names here. There's just a lot going on, right? But at the same time, that's my con. So this is a pro and a con. The pro and con of this team is there's a lot of talent, and by that I mean there's a lot of players like Taywan Taylor who had a good NFL stint. Chad Williams who had a little NFL stint. You got Larry Rose III who was a great college player. Kyle Sloter, NFL quarterback. Defensively, you look at Davin Bellamy. He's a guy who hasn't played in a couple years. Adonis Alexander was a guy from Virginia Tech that was supposed to be a stud, right? And just kind of never really made it, further. So it's interesting seeing this team because there's a lot of names that if you follow a lot of the college, like not lower level college, but like the back end college draft players in the later rounds, if you follow a lot more of those teams, you're seeing a lot of those players here, and some of them name wise are big names, but it's interesting. This team as a whole, I feel like, has a lot of potential and has a lot of, like, it's almost like the Stallions. The Stallions to me seem like a very interesting team. This also seems like a very interesting team. The South itself is overall the most intriguing. Each one of these teams is just very interesting. The big surprise here, and it shouldn't really be too much of a surprise here, I already said his name, Kyle Sloter, the quarterback. I think that Sloter is going to be given an opportunity to show what he can do, especially having a good running back and having Taywan Taylor, who, like I said earlier, had a good stint at one point in the NFL. The O-line looks solid. It's just like I said, there's pieces where it looks solid and there's pieces where it doesn't look solid. So overall, that's why I'm kind of iffy on this team. It will be interesting to see how they do fully play out, though. This is a team that I think, like I said, this and the Stallions, I think, will both be very interesting and fun teams to watch. But overall, though, I'm not 100% sold on it. Right now, Gamblers are 1. These two are tied for 2. And then we get to the final team of the entire USFL draft, which is the Tampa Bay Bandits, who, in my opinion, got the best quarterback in this entire league, Jordan Ta'amu. Jordan Ta'amu was an incredible quarterback in the XFL, ripped it up there, got a shot at Kansas City, I do believe it was, on their preseason and practice squad. I think that he, by far, is the best quarterback in the USFL, and he's going to lead the league in a lot of statistics. I think he's going to open up some eyes as well to some people who don't know who he is, just like what he was doing in the XFL before that went away. This O-line is very solid. A lot of big names, some names that you've seen before, some names you haven't seen before, but overall, this is a solid O-line. And if you look at the amount of weapons that Ta'amu has here, there's a lot of weapons there, and some of these guys have had very decent careers, so it'll be interesting to see exactly how Jordan Ta'amu can use them. Defensively, Daylon Mack, Christian Sam, and Obi Henry Melifonu are all great players. Defensively, not defensively, but con-wise, that linebacking core seems, Christian Sam had a good college career. NFL-wise, not so much so far. And then the other fact is that there's only 2 others. It's Emmanuel Beal and Greg Reeves. So it's a very small linebacking core. defensively, it's a very small defense, it looks like right now. It looks like when they go in March, they might be drafting a lot more defensively. And the big con here is Todd Haley, the head coach. Todd Haley, the head coach, is a big con. He's an aggressive coach. He's combative at points. He's lost he's lost teams before as a head coach because of him being combative and aggressive. And overall, last season he was the offense coordinator at a high school. So he's going from an offense coordinator at high school to the head coach of players trying to get into the NFL. So I think that's going to be. I think out of all of them, Mike Riley and him are two of the lower level worst coaches in the USFL. And my surprise is Obi Henry Malafanu. His brother is playing for the Detroit Lions. Obi got a shot a little bit in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see how he fully plays in this. He is the only safety on the team right now. But I think that he will be the main star of the show, right? He will be the guy kind of leading everything in the back end, and I think will probably be the best defensive player on this team. So, there we go. That's my breakdowns of the teams, my thoughts, my pros, my cons, my surprises, my opinions. As always, though, I want to know what you guys think. That's the biggest thing now. I want to know what you guys think. Who's your guys' favorite teams? Who's your guys' favorite players so far? Who do you think are going to be the surprises, the pros, the cons? Who are some players that you thought you would see in the league that you haven't seen, that you're not seeing in the league? Right now, two big names that come to my mind: Bo Scarborough, the running back from Alabama, and Treston Decoud, who is currently a corner at the Toronto Argonauts, but he's one of my favorite players that I've seen in college, and I'd love to see him again in the USFL or the XFL, which is another thing. What players do you think will be coming out and aren't coming out because of the XFL? Let me know what you guys think. Who are your favorite teams? All the pros, the cons, anything. I just want to know. I just want to get a conversation going. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. And as always, depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Still trouble, stay safe, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye. George, what do you think? You're a Panthers fan too? Yeah, let's get it. Panthers.